looking like fall out here. Weather's changing. The nights are getting cooler. We're seeing low 50s, upper 40s. The leaves haven't started to turn yet, but the apple tree is shedding the rest of its apples, the ones we couldn't reach with the ladder. It's a beautiful time of year, but one of the issues is there's a lot of work to do around here. So today I'm going to walk around and just kind of take inventory of what has to be done and figure out a game plan and get started. Our canopy's still up. That will probably stay up until end of September. We haven't used it much this year because of the intense heat, but it's been there on a few occasions for us. So let's get started. We'll start in the other yard over here and kind of take an inventory of what we're going to do. This is our patch of milkweed. We grow this specifically for the monarch butterflies. They'll come and they'll lay small eggs here, which turn into very tiny caterpillars. And they're so small, I have a hard time seeing them, but my wife spots them. We take them inside, and she puts them in an old fish aquarium. And then we throw in some of these leaves, and they actually start to grow rapidly. And then they eat the leaves, and then they crawl up on the top on the screen of the fish aquarium, and then they form somewhat of a cocoon, and they hang there. And inside that, in about 10 days, it kind of morphs into a monarch butterfly. So she gets them going, and then she takes them to the preschool so the kids can watch it all change, and they learn something from it. So every year we let the milkweed grow, and this is kind of what's left. The caterpillars have already gone to school, so not too long from now I'll be told to take these down. But we leave them up, and we leave the grass long, and that helps to promote keeping it moist down there, and the roots tend to spread right inside there and not out in the lawn. So that's our milkweed. And then we have Concord grapes. A year ago we got a really big crop of grapes. We could make jelly and stuff, and we've cut these way back. The vines grew. We probably cut 10 feet off the vines, and they were just they wouldn't go up on a trellis, and they were laying on the ground, and animals were stomping on them and stuff, and it wasn't working out because of all the heavy rains. So we cut them back a little, and now I think I'm seeing a few grapes here and there. No, I guess that's just a dead leaf. But in any event, it's past its time, so we're not going to see much here. But that's the way it is in New England. You either get it or you don't get it. So that's kind of done for the fall. I probably won't have to do much here. I will have to cut this back, with a trimmer, but that's not a big deal. The low hedge there, we cut about 6 feet off the top. That was forsythias, and they had grown so much that they were kind of drooping over with the heavy rains. And if you ever pruned a forsythia, you're going to understand what I'm talking about. When you cut one of the branches, here's an example. When you cut the branch, it sends out shoots, new shoots, and it's usually multiples. So here's another one. See, we cut this, and we sent out 2 shoots. So each time you come along and you prune it with a hedge trimmer, every shoot doubles. So pretty soon the top gets top heavy. So every once in a while you have to do this, come through and do a radical cut and cut them all back, and then start all over. The lilacs on either end are going through some sort of suffering this year, and people all around us have the same issue. The leaves are just dying and falling off too soon. This lilac here has to be pruned in the spring, right after it flowers, and we missed that point because of the rain. So it's kind of too tall right now. The dill bed has been beat up by animals and us and neighbors and everybody getting what they needed. This is what's left. These will be harvested this weekend for the seeds. Then the rest of the stuff will just be trimmed right down and taken over to the compost. That's a pussy willow bush. We cut it in half. It was up over the roof this year, so that needed to come down. And these are all perennials. We haven't taken care of it due to the heat, but yeah, that's just it. That's a knockout rose. Someone gave us a huge bush. We cut it way back and put it in, and we knew nothing about roses. And so we just kind of gave it a blessing and walked away, and it grew. So that's a rain barrel in there. That has to be drained, and actually I think I opened the drain already. So that has to be taken out and cleaned out, and then I changed the downspout. So it's hard to see from here, but it will go down into the ground rather than just run out here. And it takes the water away from the foundation. It's not a hard job, but it takes, I don't know, an hour getting everything out and putting everything away, but that has to be done before it freezes. This is what's left of the mint bed. That has to be cut down. I use an electric hedge trimmer, and I just cut that down. And we had an issue this year. We got all the mint we needed, but we had an issue this year where underneath that stone there was this place where the groundhog decided he wanted to camp out in there. So we put Irish Spring soap in there, and he apparently didn't like that, so he left. But then he would keep coming back, so we had to put the stone there. But I'm sure he's moved on to better quarters now, so we can probably put that away. So that stone has to be put away. There's another one over there. This all has to be cleaned off and put in the shed. Our tools will stay out until we're done with the fall cleanup. A lot of this stuff, this should be empty for winter. This hydrangea, I took some pictures last May, and we didn't think it was going to make it. I'll show you those pictures. But here it is, in end of August, and it's really big. The only downfall is we haven't got any flowers on it. So I don't know what to say. Firewood, this is all maple. This is probably a little over 1.5 quarts that I've tried to keep dry by putting these tarps up. And I keep tying it down with rope, and the winds keep blowing the rope, and it's old rope, so it keeps breaking. And I don't know, I got to figure out what to do with it. And I think we're going to leave it out for the winter. So, and then instead of using that, I'll use our woodshed number 2, which is here. This is a mixture of maple, oak, and I think there's some ash in there. And this has been out of the rain all summer. And some of it in the back has been like a year. So this will be dry and ready to burn. So we'll burn that first. And then maybe when that's done, we'll get into part of that. I'm not sure. And this is all fresh cut. So this has to dry some too. So our kindling shed is done. That's filled right up to the top. This is this level here is about 6.5 feet high. So that's all. That's probably a 4 foot by 3 foot inside, and that's filled with kindling wood all the way down. So we're all set. You know, literally all set. Now up on the roof line, you can just pick out that chrome chimney. That's for our wood stove, which is in the living room. That needs to be cleaned. I have to get up there, clean out. And I used a pair of binoculars and I was looking at it, and the bug screen needs to be, or the bird screen rather, needs to be replaced. So I have to go up and take some measurements and then cut a new piece of wire mesh to go around that. Otherwise the birds get in there and they come down, they're in the stove, and then you light the stove and of course it doesn't smell that good. So that's another, that has to be done real soon. In addition to that, I have to vacuum out the stove itself once that's clean and then replace a couple of fire bricks. That has to be done before we start burning, which is not too far off. We're over in the garden area right now. These are our green peppers, and I have to say I am really impressed this year with the green peppers that we're getting. I don't know what we did. I'll be honest with you. I don't know what we did, but these are the best green peppers we ever got. And these things are huge. This is a California Wonder variety, and I had 5 plants in there that I started from seed, and the frost got them, and I wasn't sure if they were going to make it, so I had 5 more, so I doubled them up and left the other ones in there. Well, everything grew. I don't know why. Everything grew, and so now we're getting all these peppers. So a lot of these will get frozen into strips and chunks for later use this winter. Our rhubarb, which really looks sad this time of year, but it's a spring crop. It keeps trying to make a comeback when we get all the rain, but I'm sure the roots are growing really well, and we are really satisfied with this. This came from the other dry area a couple years ago, and this year was the first year we could really pick it good, and we were rewarded, for the waiting, with a good batch. A lot of that went into the freezer, and some of it got canned. This is all that's left of our zucchini. This was a miserable crop. I don't know. I don't know what happened. Other people had a good year, but we had a really lousy year with this. And in the back here, this was supposed to be pickling cukes, and we had the bed in the wrong area. We had pruned this bush on the side last winter, and as a result, it just burst out, and now it's overgrown the area and shaded this area, which probably didn't help. We put marigolds in there to keep the bugs away. Turned out the package was lettered wrong, in the sense that we were looking for small marigolds, and some of these are 3 feet high. So one thing led to another, and we got like 5 cucumbers, and that was the end of it. So that all has to be pulled out, and that bed has to be moved, and we're doing away with the wood, and I'm not sure what. That'll be a spring decision. So this was a pack of zinnias that we grew from seed. When I saw them online, I really loved the colors, so I thought that maybe we would try that this year. And this is sedum. The variety is Autumn Joy, and that'll turn, by fall, it'll turn a really deep red. That's nice. That's a perennial that just keeps growing, and I think we have it in a couple other spots. And now onto the jungle. I don't even know what to say here. We went through the same problem with the tomatoes. We kept replanting because the frost kept killing them. I have varieties in there. I don't even know what they are. And I had the cages, and I had the cages all tied together, so it was very firm, and it would withstand the typical winds and everything. And with the weather we got, once the tomato plants were growing, it was blowing the cages down, and if you tried to move it, we'd break off limbs and we'd lose tomatoes. So we decided to just kind of let it go and not do anything. There was no pruning done, nothing. We have the best tomato crop ever, but it looks horrible. And there's more of these 3-foot zinnias grown, and it's I don't know what's going on. It's the strangest year I think we've ever had. There was a few pepper plants here that didn't do quite well. There's one down there with I see a pepper on it, but we're overrun with tomatoes. We've gone back to canning whole tomatoes, which we haven't done in decades. It's crazy, but I'm not complaining. But here's another bed that we put in what we thought were small marigolds to protect the basil crop in here, which that's gone to seed now. It's bolted, so that was green beans. They're all done. We had a good year with that. The bees are loving the marigolds, so we leave them. I'll just leave them. Once the heads die and dry out, then we can save the seeds. But there's down under here, there's eggplant growing. I don't know how it's doing it, but we've harvested a number of eggplant and actually canned some. Over here we have bee balm, and I want to say this bee balm is probably 4 feet high. We've never had this high, and again, I don't understand what's going on. This tomato, these were free seeds that the company sent us, and so we started them and threw it in. And this is I think it's a Zapotec. It's a Mexican type thing. They're good on sandwiches and stuff, but that's, it's a good tomato. But the other tomatoes that we grew, we tried to grow more commercial varieties, Rutgers and Wisconsin. And that's the strawberry bed over there. Get a good look at it because it's going away, folks. All we're doing is feeding the chipmunks, and it's not worth the effort. So that's going away. So inside of 4 weeks from now, this will all be cleared out. And then this area, as I said, this will be set up until end of September, early October. Most of this stuff goes into the house, the basement, the rug, all that stuff. The canopy gets taken down and put in bins. And then this is just a wide open space. And we moved the grill over to this area so we can barbecue in the winter. And yes, we barbecue in the winter in New England, but all of these daisies, they'll be gone in about a week. And this gets mowed down with a electric hedge trimmer. We cut all that down. That goes to the compost. That needs to get cleared out. Be emptying pots. Everything. There's more of those marigolds. Good Lord. So that's kind of what we're going to do. We're going to prioritize today and decide what to do first, and I think it will be the chimney. So let's get started. This was the piece I replaced. And I think when I originally put it up there, I didn't necessarily cut it long enough. I didn't have enough overlap. And eventually the galvanized coating wears off, and then these little wires will rust and weaken, and then they just snap. And I didn't want to have that happen during the middle of winter. This has been up there for, I don't know, 12 years or something. And so I had the material. This is what it looks like when it's fresh. So it's got a good coating on it. So I think this will be fine for now. And that'll keep the birds out. It was 32 inches around and I cut it about 36. So, and then I used wire, as you could see, to kind of lace it together. And it's wedged in under the cap, so I think it'll be fine up there. So that's that project done. And I almost forgot, that's a snowblower. That has to be pulled out, and that gets stored right here, facing out for the winter. This shelf comes out and actually in pieces, and then we screw it to the back wall so it's flat and out of the way. And then this becomes the indoor storage bin for the firewood. So this is about 6 feet high, probably 3 feet deep, and 4.5 feet wide. So before it gets really cold, I'll have this entire bin filled with firewood. And then there'll be a black barrel here, similar to that. And that will be filled with kindling wood, so that when we need to start a fire, we can come out and just get the kindling wood and the firewood without ever going outside. We started with egg cartons, which are stacked up there, and I have more boxes over there. We use one of those every time we start a fire, so those all move down to this shelf, which is currently garden-related stuff. That all gets put away, cleaned off, and then we start with the winter change. So that has to be done too. So, but everything has to be timed correctly. So we're doing the, we're getting the stove ready before we bring in the wood. These are the fire bricks that we'll use to replace the bad ones that are currently in the stove. Oh, and there's another project. That's a new mower blade that has to go on before we do the fall mowing. That's got to go. So let's get started. So this is how I save my seed. I take the dill heads that I picked, and you can see the dried seeds here. And these are all future dill stems or dill plants. And I just crumble them. I don't get every one of them, but I get the vast majority of them. And that's all that matters. This will reseed itself in the garden bed. But sometimes we get a late frost and it kills them. And then so I get concerned that I may not have enough dill. So I go and I reseed it. And that's why I saved this. It's come in handy a number of times. And so it doesn't cost anything and you already have it, so I figure why not. I've also shared it with friends who wanted to grow dill, or maybe they lost theirs, or a small package in the store with less than that would probably cost you almost $2. This doesn't make sense paying for something that you really don't need to pay for. So that's what we got. There's a few stems in there, but nothing that'll hurt it. And this will get put in a plastic bag and marked and saved till next year. This is all waste. I'll compost this, but not in the regular garden compost. I have another spot where I just throw it. Otherwise, all these seeds will germinate and all of my garden beds would be filled with dill. We don't want that. So, all right, on to something else. And that's my weekly haul of apples. These will all go into the compost bin. I figured while I had the cart out, I might as well pick these up. That should hold it down better. That rope will last at least through the winter. I put these nails in the side after I stack it. I put nails there just randomly so I can tie it down. And then when I start unloading it, I just pull the nails out. So, and I put that coil of wire under this piece here because I had a dip in there and it was forming a big pool of water and mosquitoes were breeding in there. So I just put that wire in there, kind of as filler. That holds the tarp up and it won't gather water. So that'll be good. All right, on to something else. So that's the finished pipe in. This will run like this all winter. That's just your typical drain pipe. It goes into the ground and it goes, you can't see it, but it goes underground and it's probably 50 feet away over by that pipe sticking up. That's the air vent. So this keeps the water away from the foundation. Now we gotta finish draining that, and I store all the little parts inside it for the winter, and then that goes in the shed. And that's it. It's ready for storage. This will go in the shed along with the barrel. I just have to clean up this mess and I'm done with this one. So this is the next project. We're gonna pop out a couple of the worn out stones inside the stove and cut new ones and replace them. And then on the back, this box that appears to be attached to the back of the stove is a blower. That has to be removed and taken outside, taken apart and cleaned out. That sucks the cooler air up off the floor, and there's like a, I guess they call it a squirrel cage inside that spins, and it blows air over the hot back of the stove. It comes up here, exits, and this bend here forces the air across the top of the stove, which is also hot, and then therefore warm air is blowing into the room. So this needs to be taken apart and cleaned before we can start it up. Otherwise, the first time it goes up, you get a big cloud of dust. So that's going to be done right now. So let's get started. This unit's only held on with 2 screws. There's one, there's one right here, and then one on the other side. So off camera, I'm just going to take those out and slide this out. So this is the blower removed from the back, and you can see it gets dusty in there. Of course, it sat here all summer, but here you can see where, you know, it really needs to be cleaned out. And then inside, it's kind of hard to see, but inside, that's kind of dusty too. So we'll get the compressed air out and see if we can't blow that out. I think last year I removed some of this cover, but when we get it outside, we'll see. This is not a job to do inside. Now inside the stove, this brick here needs to be replaced. It's actually 2. There's a strip, a thin strip, plus a full brick. And then this piece I want to replace. And if I can, I would like to do this over here. I only have a couple of bricks and some pieces, so we're gonna have to see what we can piece together. Some of the stuff like this here, these were replaced last year, and the back ones, those were all new last year. But let me pull these out and see what we can do. Okay, so I had 3 new bricks, and this is an exact replacement for here. Same thing here. I just have these 2 strips I have to cut, and I've marked them out on a new brick. And I'm gonna go outside and grind these down. I'm using an angle grinder with a masonry bit on here. It's a 16th inch thick, and this should go right through it. But it makes a lot of dust, so I'm gonna have to set up outside. And I was gonna take the bench out, but I think I'll just take a stool and clamp this to the stool top, and then it saves a lot of pickup. So, okay, let me get set up here. So there's the two sides that I took out, and they'll be completely replaced. I still have that piece, and I still have some pieces in here that are usable, but we're going to put those in, and then we're going to see what else has to be done. All right, I've got the two sides in, and before I do any more messing around with cutting, I pieced together the stuff that was still in here, and I think what we're going to do is we're going to leave this. I'm going to take this debris here and brush it into the cracks, and then the bed of ashes as we burn will fill in, and this will be good for this winter. But then next year what I'll do is I'll buy more bricks and replace the whole bottom. The bricks last a number of years, so you know, I'll get another year anyway out of this bottom stuff. All right, let me do that. Okay, now we're going to take this apart to get at the dust inside. And you can see how bad it is here. So I'm going to get the air hose out and blow this out. Okay, I've got the blower hooked up on the back there. I wiped it all off. Wiped this off, put that back in, cleaned out inside there. So that's gonna work fine. We got the new stones in there. I got the chimney clean, ash is pulled out. The first fire will produce enough small ash to fill in those cracks, and that'll be fine for the winter. We're not gonna worry about that. The last thing I want to do here is to pull these caps off. They're just decorative caps that pop right off. And I'm going to use this. You can see it, that's a powdered graphite lubricant. And usually after a couple days of burning this, the hinge squeaks. So you put a little graphite in there, and that takes care of it. Now, if you don't have the graphite, it doesn't seem like it's doing much, but I could see it going in there. If you don't have the graphite, you can pull the door off, and where the pins stick up, take a carpenter's pencil and just do that on there. And it does the same effect. Having this just saves me from removing the door. And then the caps go right back on. There, like that. It won't squeak. By midwinter, it drives me nuts, so I do that. We got this area cleaned up a little bit, pulled out a lot of weeds. You can see the perennials a little better now. The roses there. Hens and chickens here. These are chrysanthemums. They should be flowering soon. The fall.